start the session. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's session. So this webinar hosted by Champs Private Limited, and I'm Harsha. So I've been working with Azure and related cloud technologies for about 5 years now. So I've been developing applications related to cloud computing, cloud databases, and a lot related to these remote access technologies. So let's start with the session. So today's session is introduction to Azure. So some people call this Azure. So before we talk about Azure, so let's talk about what is cloud computing, because Azure is a cloud computing solution provided by Microsoft. We have different cloud vendors in the market. So today, Azure solution and how they're going to solve the problems which is currently facing by day-to-day business applications. So cloud computing is the delivery of on-demand computing services from applications to storage, and if we're talking about processing power, that's also possible in cloud computing. This service delivery happens typically on the internet on pay-as-you-go basis. So this is the main point where we have to highlight pay-as-you-go basis. So if you see the current slide, it's expressing you there are some specific services within a cloud environment, and using these end users devices, those can be accessible. So just connecting to the internet, they can simply access related services. So how this cloud computing works? So it's not just an image which simply shows you how these servers, virtual machines, software platforms are interconnected each other. So Azure has made cloud computing simple. So that's the main point that you're going to talk today. So now you might get a question like, why are we moving to a cloud? Why can't I have my own data center? So the solution is, as I told you, the word pay as you go. If you want to start your own data center, if you want to have your own server room, server PC, you have to have a upfront cost. So this upfront cost, if you want to start a business today, you're creating a server room, but you might not get the outcome, the exact outcome where you won't be able to cover the cost that you consumed when creating this server room in 2 to 3 days. It might take a long process, long time. But when it comes to cloud computing, the main advantage what we're having is you're only paying for the resources that you're going to consume. You don't have any upfront cost. So that's one of the main benefits of using cloud computing. And when it comes to availability, scalability, security, there are huge advantages when you're comparing with your on-premises environment with cloud computing environment. So I think now you might get a clear idea about what is cloud computing. So let's move to the other slide where it says, what is Microsoft Azure? As I said earlier, Azure is an ever-expanding set of cloud services. So it is a cloud computing service created by Microsoft for building, testing, deploying, and managing applications and services through Microsoft manages data centers. So if you are going for a Microsoft Azure subscription, you are going to use Microsoft data centers. Your data is in Microsoft's data centers. So let's talk about different types of solutions that Azure is providing. So these solutions, most of the cloud vendors are providing these solutions, but Azure has their own way of solving each different issues mentioned in this image. So you can see there's something called on-premises, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. And below that, you can see a key, you manage, provider manage. So as I explained earlier, you have to bear the cost when you are developing your own hardware, when you are developing your own data center. So you have to manage all these stacks when it comes to your data center. So when I'm mentioning your data center, that means the on-premises. So you have to manage the networking, you have to manage security, you have to manage servers. If a lightning attack comes and if it's going to destroy your server, that could happen. So you have to manage everything. But infrastructure as a service, which is something given by these Azure solutions, provide and manage some of these blocks. You can see up to virtualization, Microsoft manages these things. Platform as a service, up to runtime, the responsible you to, they are saying that we are going to take care of these things. You only take care of data and the application. Software as a service, they're going to take care of everything. So now you might get a clear picture about how this works. So I'll get into deep about this IaaS, which is infrastructure as a service. So if you are purchasing infrastructure as a service related service from Microsoft, you just need to specify this is the operating system that I need. No need to care about installing softwares, anything. Installing the system software. If you're talking about platform as a service, say you want to host a .NET based application. You just need to say, I need a .NET runtime. That's it. No need to think about what's my hardware. Do I need to install Windows updates? Do I need to install security patches? Don't think about anything if you're going for the platform as a service. And finally, you have the software as a service. So these are subscription-based software solutions where you don't have to manage any of the relationship. So the only thing you have to do is the configuration of the application, which you can do whatever the configuration that you can expect, and just do the configuration where you have how the software wants to behave. So that's it. So let's go to the Microsoft Azure Portal. So since this session is about introduction to Microsoft Azure, and this is a solution provided by Microsoft. So you can, again, I'm coming back to this particular site. What is Microsoft Azure? So I'm going back to the portal now. So in order to have a Microsoft account, you need to have something called a subscription. So you can have multiple subscriptions if you want, or you can have it with a single subscription. So let's go through this portal one by one. So before that, you have to go to portal.azure.com and you have to create an account. So I already created an account. So I'm in my dashboard. So just to show you how this multiple subscriptions works. So this is my portal. If you see, I have two subscriptions called Azure for Students and the typical pay-as-you-go pricing. So let's talk about this one by one. So once you create an Azure subscription, the first screen that you are getting is this particular screen. So here, if you click on 3 lines, you can see create resources, home, dashboard, services, lot of things. And if you click this all resources section, so it's going to show you the resources that you currently have. If you go to this more services section, you can see there are huge number of services that Microsoft provides for you. There are virtual machines, app services, static web apps, and if you are talking about databases, you have huge number of database varieties here. AI and machine learning, this is the most trending thing these days, and they have their own platform for machine learning related stuff. So as I said, in order to start with any of these sections, you have to have a subscription. So Azure subscription is a logical container used to provision resources in Azure. So it's kind of, again, another container, but it is logical. So it holds data of your all resources. So let's go ahead and create a resource. So I want to create a small app. So what I can do is, if I go to app services, I don't have any apps in here. There is something called create app service. So if you come back to this particular screen, you can see subscription, resource group, something like that. So this subscription, as we discussed, this is the place that you are linking your credit card. Or if you have if you are signing up as a brand new user, Azure is giving you $200 worth of credit to play around these applications. So I already consumed my free trial, so currently you can see I have this pay as you go option and this Azure for students. So what we can do is we can create a new resource group. So I'm selecting my subscription and we have something called a resource group. So this resource group is a container that holds resources for an Azure solution. This is again a solid container, so it's going to hold all your resources. So to give you a brief introduction about resource groups, so if you check the slide set, if you go to this particular slide, this is showing you a typical software hosting environment where you have this production, development, and QA, and this comes as the management group. So in Azure, we have to manage from this particular layer, the subscription layer. You can see there are different subscriptions comes under one Azure account. So they have created mission critical related subscription for the mission critical resource group, protected data for a different one, other production for a different one. You can have one to many subscriptions and you can include all these resources in one subscription as well, but Azure is giving you the opportunity to create multiple subscriptions because you can segment your data. You can have a clear idea about this is my production, so these are the resources. This is my non-production, these are the resources. So we were talking about this resource group. So we have a resource group called app. So inside this app component, we can host a different set of applications. Within the resource group, we can have different resources. Within the app resource group too, we can have different resources. So in the current environment that we're going to develop, I'm going to create a new web app. I have a resource group. I don't have any resource group, so I'm going to create a new group. So I'm giving the name champ RG, which denotes resource group. So you can see this green tick here. Just and you can have an app name, you can have a runtime stack here. So when it comes to a web app, this comes under platform as a service, because what I need is I want to run a Node.js web app. I want to run a .NET web app. So you just need to say what is the runtime that you want to select that you need to run. So Azure provides you .NET Core, ASP.NET, Java, Node.js, PHP, whatever the thing. So if your application is developed based on Node.js, say the application is developed on Node.js, I'm going to select this particular runtime, Node.js. So I'm going for the latest version. And it's asking for the operating system, Linux or Windows. So even though you select these things, no need to install, you don't have a place to select which Windows version that you're going to select. So as we saw in platform as a service, everything is going to be managed by Microsoft. So you have to have app service plan and you have something called SKU here. So this denotes, so now I get my application. Now I'm going to say I need this much of a random access memory to run my application. So let's go and change size of this. So when working with these cloud computing networks, one of the things that you have to be aware about is what is the resource that you're going to use. So here you can see they are providing us P1, V1 in the productions layer. You have 3.5 GB memory. They have another one 7 GB of memory, and they have another one 14 GB of memory. So let's say we are in a dev and test environment. We don't need production. So simply switch back to this dev/test, and there again they are providing you two different tiers, which is 1 GB and while the other one is 1.75 GB. So since we are in a test environment, let's go ahead and create this particular app using this 1 GB instance. Click on this, just press apply. So that's all for the configurations for the first step. Next, you can see monitoring section. It's asking us to enable application insight. So if you want to observe your application, how it's running, how the traffic goes, how the user count, so you can simply press yes. So you can create any tags for these things. You can categorize your application. Say you're working with 50 similar apps like this. So you have to tag your apps. So when you are searching by the tag, it should pop up. So it will be easy if you add tags there. And finally, you have this preview and create. So if you are not sure about the basics that you added there, you can again go through about those details in here. So we added operating system Linux, SKU free, memory 1 GB. So everything is okay. So let's create the application. So I have to tell you that I forgot to mention one thing in the basics tab. We added the option called add a sample application. So if you have your own source code, you can simply connect a Docker repository, or you can simply create a zip archive and upload your code to this container. So you can see now the deployment started. Until this happens, let's again go through some overview of this Azure Portal. So you can see once you start the application, you can see something called notifications. So this notifications bar shows you all the notifications, all the events that is happening in the portal. So you can see we started the deployment and it says deployment succeeded. And there are several options. You can access the Cloud Shell. So if you are going deep, you want to learn deep about this Cloud Shell, you can join with our next session of webinar. So you have the Cloud Shell, here and support, you have settings tab here. So since our deployment is done, I'm going to the deployment, this particular screen, and make sure that we have something called pin to dashboard. So let's talk about our dashboard as the next step. For now, I'm going to this deployment succeeded by opening a new tab. So I'm going to the resource. So you see the application that we just created. So they're giving us the URL, champrg.azurewebsites.net. This is the name that we gave when we are creating the application. If I simply click this, they are hosting the application for us. So if you click this, it's loading the page. So until it happens, we will dashboard screen. So here you have this something called pin to dashboard. So let's click this because say you want to manage this application in future. So you have, in Azure they are providing you the opportunity to create your own dashboard. So let's click this pin to dashboard. It says pin to dashboard. So let's go back to our dashboard screen and see what's happening there. So what you can do is simply click on this Microsoft Azure. It will redirect you to the home page. If you click these three lines, we have something called dashboard. So in the meantime, our app loading was successful. So this was the sample code that is given by Microsoft when you are deploying a Node.js code. So what you can do is you can simply upload your own code. So it will start serving by going through this particular URL. So let's get back to the dashboard. So if you click the dashboard, you can see some tiles. So let's delete this dashboard and let's create a brand new dashboard for us. So I'm going to create a new dashboard. It's a blank dashboard. So I'm saying champ Azure demo. That's my dashboard name. And here there are different services that you can pin to your dashboard. So as the first step, I need a clock. So what I can do is simply drag and drop this clock widget here, and it's giving you Sri Lanka Standard Time. Say I have some of these applications are hosted in a different region. So when I talk about regions, again I'll go back to one of the let's deploy another application in different region so you can get the idea how this time zone works. So currently in Sri Lankan time, I'm applying this particular time. Say one of my applications are hosted in US servers. So when I go through the dashboard, I need to see the US time as well. So I'm dragging and dropping another clock instance, editing, and I'm saying so I need US. So US Canada specific time. So I'm working in a different time zone as well. So I need this time zone as well. So since I need to keep track of my information about my future events, future tasks that I have to do in my Azure dashboard, I can add a Markdown section. To save it, done. Yeah, I added the Markdown section. So this is kind of a sticky note where you can add whatever the content. It's a dynamic content. Let's say Azure demo. Done. Currently, this is our dashboard. So when you are managing your portal, you're creating 2 more users and you want to track their login and logout events, those kind of things as well. So simply search for user activity summary. Click, drag and drop here. So it will show you all the user sign-ins. We have something called users and groups. If you add here, so in my work group, I have someone called John Doe. So you can see the JD and my name HW is there. So we have this particular dashboard. Now, as you can see, we created an application. So in our application, I need to see how this application behaves, how the traffic going on and off. To see that in our dashboard, you can simply drag this application map and application insights. Let's keep this clean a little bit. Right. So application insights. So what I can do is I can simply configure the style. I'm selecting my subscription. I'm selecting my resource group, and it's asking me to select what's the value. So since we didn't select turn on application insights when we were doing the configuration, it's not going to show here. But if you turn it on, you will be able to select that particular application, and once you press apply, yeah, we can't proceed with that because we don't have a valid application there. So say this is our dashboard. So if you don't have these application configurations in your dashboard, you have to go through that particular application, go to settings, and you have to go to that particular line using 2 to 3 clicks. But if you add everything to a dashboard, you can do everything, you can view everything using one single view. So since we are done customizing this particular dashboard, I'm pressing this button, done customizing. So you can see once you log into Azure, just go through the dashboard section, you can see your dashboard. So you can see the time, you can simply edit this information, then you can pin something, your future events. If you have user sign-ins, everything's going to show you here. And say if you are managing 10 to 15 applications, just configure the tile with all the applications. You can have a you can have a bar chart or a line chart by showing all the application insights. And the you are working on multiple projects, you have this Champ Azure demo dashboard, and for a different project, you can have a separate dashboard. You can have multiple dashboards as well. So this is just a dummy dashboard that I created. You can switch back, and you can see this is a private dashboard. So you have, we were talking about adding users to your subscription. So why, if you want, what if you want to share your dashboard with other users as well? So you can do that as well with this Azure shared dashboard option. So that's possible. So let's go back to our application, which we will deploy here. So you saw that it is very easy to deploy an application in Azure. So let's talk about something else. What if we create an HTML website and if we upload our source code there? So you want to create a website and you want to host it in Microsoft Azure. So let's do that, and I'll show you. You won't get more than 6 steps when we're configuring this process. So let's again go to create a resource. So as we discussed earlier, everything is a resource in Azure. So in order to have a hosted website, you have to have a storage account. If I go through this storage account options, I show you different variations of storage accounts. So I'm going to press create. So I'm going to my pay-as-you-go model, and we already have this resource group we already created. If you want a new one, you can create a new one. I'm selecting the earlier one. You have to give a name. It is asking you to use lowercase, so CCAP simple. So make sure that this username, since they are giving us a unique URL, this username should be a unique one. So location, I'm selecting US Central. Performance standard. Blob. We'll be talking about this blob access types, replication, account kind, how to secure this information in our future webinars. So let's go through the basic steps in this webinar. If you configure this and if you go to networking, it's asking the connectivity method. So currently I'm setting this as public. Data protection. So what you can do is in these options, even though you delete your data, you can still have a historical version of these data. So you have to turn on these options, turn on versioning. There are some advanced features as well, but for this version, we don't need anything. Just go through these steps. Just leave it as it is. Now I'm going to create this. So validation passed as well. So I'm going to create the storage account. So you can see our notifications tab. It's going to submit our deployment. And another thing is you don't have to wait until this process completes. So you can simply do this and you can go to a different resource and start working on a different one. So everything happens in the background. So you can simply click on this notifications tab to see what's happening. So currently our deployment is in progress. Yeah, deployment succeeded. So let's go to that resource. Again, resource summary of the storage account, showing you what's the resource group, location, and everything. Here, unlike in the app service, you have several options. You can store queues, you can store tables, store files, and you have containers. Basically, these containers for the for unstructured data, tables for tabular data format. So if I go through containers, it's asking me to create a container. So think about in general English. Container is again something that you have physically. Think about a physical container. You put something into a container, right? The same thing happens here. We're going to put our HTML code, the website code, inside this particular container. So we created a storage. Now what you have to do is, there is something called static website. So go to the static website option and just enable the static website option. It's asking you what is the index document name and the other document name. In simple terms, if you're running a web application, what's your first page of the web application? If someone is coming, if your domain name is abc.com, if they hit the abc.com, what's the first file that it should serve? So in my case, it's index.html and my error document will be error.html. It's our website, and you can see they're giving us 2 endpoints as well. So just copy this primary endpoint and paste it somewhere else. Now go back to your container. Once you turn on this static website option, it's creating you 2 different folders. One is for logs and one for this web. If you go inside this $web, this is the place that you have to store the website's HTML files. So please note that this static website option is allowing you to run static site. So you can put AngularJS code, HTML code, CSS, everything. But if you are going, if you're doing any computational processing and stuff, you have to go for a app service plan like what we did earlier. You can simply select the runtime and do that. And also, you can access this particular file storage using a tool called Azure Storage Explorer. So you can download it from Azure website. So it gives you more options than this particular web interface. So I'll show it. Now what I'm going to do is, I have my index.html file. I'm going to upload this. Currently, if we hit this URL, we don't get anything. Request content does not exist. So now I'm going to upload. Select my file. So next up, it's my index.html. Upload the file. That's it. Now your site is up. Simply go to this and reload the page. So this is my content which I added in my HTML page. I'll show you the source code. This is the content. Hello everyone, thank you for joining the webinar. So this is our content. So I think you got the idea how easy it is to host a static website. So the options that I was talking about, now here we don't have, say you are uploading 100 HTML files. So in that case, you don't need to select, 100 HTML, yeah, you can have a multi-select, but say you have different folders to upload. But this option only gives you to select files. So in that case, what you can do is, you can install Azure Storage Explorer. You can simply download it from azure.microsoft.net. So this software gives you all the capabilities, zipping, unzipping, export, everything. So you can simply connect this particular tool with your Azure application, with your Azure subscription to work with it. So now it doesn't took us 5 minutes to configure the web application and the HTML side, but make sure that when you are dealing with resources, you should know what's your resource limit, what's the RAM that you are working on, those kinds of information. And I'll show you another cool thing with these cloud environments. So let's go back to our recent resources. This is the app service that we created. So we're talking about on-premises versus cloud. So think that you're building a website, you have a very good business, and suddenly you're trying to sell a product which has a high demand. So suddenly your website traffic increases. Think currently your application is running in your on-premises, say which is 8 GB RAM. So you are getting huge traffic from outside network. but your website can't handle this network. So the result would be slowing down the network, and for some customers, the website won't be available, and you are in on-premises. So you have the idea that you have to increase the resources. So you can't do everything with 8 GB, you have to go for 16 GB. But you are in on-premises, you can't do this on the spot. You have to wait for the next day, and you have to plug in another container, plug in another CPU. But at that time, the demand the demand is going to remove from that product and it's going for a different product. Say you are plugging in extra 8 GB to your on-premises environment. So from next week onwards, your traffic goes down and it only needs 8 GB. It doesn't need 16 GB anymore. So what are you going to do with your extra resources? You already purchased, so you already paid upfront cost. So that's another advantage which we are having in cloud environment. So I added 1 GB RAM for this particular Champ RG app service. So say I'm getting a huge traffic for this. What I can simply do is there is an option called scale up and scale out. So let's go through this scale out option. So scale is not currently available for this pricing tier. So what we can do is let's go for a different pricing tier and create an application. So create another application, create app service, add new app. I'm selecting the same resource group, Champ app. That's my new application name. Not available. Champ app HW, it's available. So and stack as same Node.js. And another good thing is you have all the versions. Your application supports the way your code written only to support Node.js 10.6. You can simply select that. No need to go for the latest version. So US is 2. So let's create something in the production and make sure that when you are trying out these things, if you are only doing this for R&D purpose, make sure to remove your resources, delete your resources. Otherwise, you'll get a huge bill because we are talking about production workload. So if you are playing around with dev/test environments, that's fine. So for the sake of trying out, let's select this, apply. I'm going to create this application. Create. You can see we submitted this. It's running in the background. Let's wait a while until the deployment completes. Until this happens, let's talk about, okay. Is it okay? Yeah, it's still in progress. So let's talk a bit about the regions that we were talking about. So when we were adding applications and we were creating applications, they're asking us to select a region. Yes, deployment succeeded. So I'm now in this Champ app HW. If you go to scale up option, you can see a different setting here. It's allowing us to select these things because in the free environment and the dev test environment, it didn't allow us to create this configuration. So you have something called manual scale and you have something called custom auto scale. So what I do is scale on any schedule based on metrics. So my minimum instance count is 1 and my maximum instance count is 2. And I'm saying scale based on a specific metric. So what we're going to do is, based on a specific condition, we're going to create another copy of this application that we just created. So say we initially created an application with 8 GB of memory, but based on the condition, I need to clone another instance. So the excess traffic coming from the internet can redirect to the other instance. So the scale up option. So what we're doing is we're increasing the resources. So we were talking about 1 GB RAM. So it's asking us to, I'm creating a condition to increase it to 3.5 GBs, but in scale out, we can have the same exact copy of the current application. So here what I'm saying is custom auto scale. So scale based on a metric, or you can select scale based on a specific instance count. So I'm saying within this particular time period, just scale up the instance, or again what you can do is, here you can see there is an add rule option. So I told you that if your website gets a huge traffic, your RAM goes higher, your CPU usage goes higher. What you can do is simply select the metric name as CPU usage, and CPU usage is greater than 70% on another instance. That's how easy it is. No need to plug in anything, just do this setting. And make sure that if your traffic goes away, you have to create a condition to delete that automatically spawned instance as well. Otherwise, if it created 2 instances, it will run 2 instances forever. So that's another advantage which we are having in cloud computing. So that's how you scale up and scale out these application gateways, applications. And you can see there are different options, deployment slots, deployment center. So deployment slot in the sense you can have different slots for this application, saying this is my production, this is my test environment, something like that. So if you want to secure your web API calls, you have, if you want to install separate SSL certificates, these SSL TLS settings. So everything you need is there. So I hope you got the idea how the basic structure of this Azure works. So, and you saw that how easy it is to create an application, to create a static website. So it's just a few clicks. So for this session, so I think we covered the basic structure, and in the next session that we're going to talk about, I'll be talking about how to do security configurations between these applications, so how to avoid hacking attempts. So we can't say that if you host it in Azure, if you host it in some other cloud provider, your data is 100% secure, because in the app service section, you have to configure which clients, which endpoints can access my web API. So Azure just providing us a portal, and we have to configure the security related stuff within our application. So I'll show you how to do the security related stuff from the next webinar onwards. And from there, we can go for architecturing, creating databases, how the storage account works, how Docker is going to interconnect with Azure and stuff. So I hope you got the basic idea. So thank you very much for joining us with today. And if you have any concerns or questions regarding the webinar, we'll be sending an email. So please fill up your questions with your contact numbers, or I'll be getting in touch with you if you have any questions with Azure. So all for this session. Thank you everyone for joining with us.